Scaredy cat.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Viktor Vaughn Jr., and this is a movie review of Zack Snyder's adaptation of Alan Moore's Watchmen. Let me just consult my black book over here. So, first things first, some initial impressions. Both the film and the comic book opens on the comedian's murder and Rorschach's investigating the aftermath. Action very well done with excellent and comic accurate cinematography, elevated by presence of music. Unforgettable by Nat King Cole. This is where I say something smart, like unforgettable truly makes this scene unforgettable. This has always been something of Snyder's specialty, in my opinion. All his movies that I've ever watched, which a good chunk of them, starting with Dawn of the Dead, Batman vs. Superman, his most recent one before Army of the Dead, Justice League, and then Army of the Dead. Less so for that one, but still. He is, if I have to give him a summarizing sentence, an excellent director in terms of both cinematography and action. His visuals, top notch. His fight choreography, top notch. And that is no different in this movie. The film then has opening credits, a montage of Minutemen history. Now, Minutemen is who inspired the Watchmen in the story of Watchmen. So, some historical background is skimmed over by the use of a montage accompanied by Bob Dylan's The Times They Are A-Changin'. Slow-mo, gorgeous cinematography, excellent and enticing opening that builds so much atmosphere. A technique that Snyder practices yet again in his recently released Netflix movie, Army of the Dead. You should go check that one out. It's not that good, mind you, but the opening, ooh. See, that's the thing with a lot of Zack's movies. They start really good, pulling the viewer immediately, and then throughout the course of the movie, he starts to lose them. I'm a fan of Zack Snyder. This is just an observation I made from watching the movies he made that I've watched. And then Rorschach's investigation scene. It establishes the rest of the film's tone as a sort of dark and gritty noir tale, complete with its own detective character and era-authentic, slightly subverted appearance. Now, what I will praise him for, again, is that he tried to be 100% comic accurate, visually. He even used the comic book panels as the movie's storyboard, is what I heard. A bit of context, I did consult the YouTube video by Cinefix, Watchmen, What's the Difference? You should go check that video out if you want a more detailed comparison, specifically a comparison between the original comic book and the movie adaptation. What I'm doing here is I'm reviewing how well the movie adapts the original material. And, how it stands on its own as a cinematic experience. And what I will say about the movie is this: the film definitely ups the ante in terms of violence and bloody gore, a filmic quality that I happen to like, apparent in Rorschach's first kill story. You know, he tells of his first time actually killing a criminal, and it's this psycho rapist serial killer that had just killed a girl and then burned her in her clothes and fed what's left of her to his dogs. And Rorschach, in the comics, he burns him alive in his house. Brutal enough. But as if that weren't brutal enough, Zack Snyder had Rorschach chop the guy's head with a cleaver until it basically explodes. And, you know, though I feel its portrayal in the movie is unnecessarily over the top, I quite like and appreciate how dark it made the scene feel. I don't know why I just did that. I'm not done with the review. Just felt right to do that after. And speaking of violence and action, the action in the comics are like how it's usually used in comics, used as a tool to move the story along, and characters usually talk to each other while fighting. In the movie, however, the action is given the appropriate cinematic flair. You know, as I said, he is an excellent action director. Fight choreography has healthy amount of style, and movements are captured so well. For those of you who want to know what I'm talking about, he made this really low budget short film, but it has a bit of action in it, and even the little bit of action it has, he does it well. Like the movement, when you're watching it and you see the movement, it's dynamic. That's the word I was looking for, dynamic. But some scenes, like the prison break, come off as overly exaggerated, a bit cheesy, and the violence in scenes such as the alley beatdown are glorified in a way that I feel goes slightly against what the comic was trying to do, you know, with its subversive approach to the superhero genre. I just felt like it felt too much like a conventional superhero movie, you know? I will say though that the scene where Night Owl breaks that guy's hand and then like you can see the bone actually popped out and then the blood spurted. That was awesome. Not good. And to achieve this sort of hyper action, the movie also enhances the abilities and strengths of the non-superpowered Watchmen quite a bit, as opposed to Moore's emphasis that all other Watchmen besides Dr. Manhattan are just ordinary people wearing masks. They're flawed, some even broken. I do understand this change to an extent, however, because this results in more spectacular and dynamic action scenes. See, I actually wrote it down, dynamic. Now we're going to jump ahead a bit to the ending, because I really want to talk about the ending now. The comic's ending has always stuck with me ever since reading it. This is a review, not a spoiler review, so I suggest you go check it out for yourself to know what I'm talking about. The idea that such a ridiculous sounding yet entirely plausible relative to a superhero comic book world horror, you know, such horror could happen and work or prove successful, mind you, is world shattering. The movie's ending seems a bit too much though when compared to the comic book's ending. The level of destruction is quite consequently underplayed as it comes off as being less apparent. So I would say overall, as a cinematic experience, Snyder's adaptation isn't at all a bad movie. It is sprinkled with gorgeous visuals and cinematography, and I do say sprinkled. It's kind of all over the place. That's also kind of a weakness, but yeah, overall, solid action and an excellent film noir tone, which Moore also excellently depicted in the original material. So I would say that is a thing that Zack successfully replicated. Rorschach is hands down the best character in the movie. However, I do recommend watching this first as a standalone companion piece prior to reading the graphic novel. So you can appreciate how much better the original material is and not be focusing on how poorly the movie adapts the comic book while you're watching the movie instead, you know? When you've already when you've already read this masterpiece, you're going into Zack Snyder's Watchmen and you're expecting something along the lines of this, which is damn near impossible, I'd say. So, go watch this first as sort of an introduction. You know, in that way, this is a better introduction to the Watchmen universe than reading the original material. Watch this first, right? And if you enjoy it in any to any degree, to any extent, and then you're thinking of the original material, you're gonna go, okay, so even if this movie has flaws, I still enjoy it. People say the graphic novel is much better. Holy crap. How much am I gonna like that? You know? You're gonna be excited to experience the graphic novel for the first time instead of going, oh, the graphic novel is way better. So that about wraps my review slash comparison of Watchmen. This has been Zack Snyder's Watchmen v. Alan Moore's Watchmen by Viktor Vaughn Jr. Signing off. I'll see you next time. I forgot to give this movie a score, so here we go. Low 7. Peace.